Namaskar. Welcome to this session. Uh, we had commenced on a new topic. We had embarked upon new topic. Since we are dealing with education about yoga, education in yoga, through yoga, for yoga, by yoga, uh, it I felt it quite relevant that the education in a social setup needs to be considered as well. Because if you recall, I had said last time, among so many pairs who commence yoga, who get into yoga, who start yoga, who practice yoga, amongst so many pairs such as strong, weak, men, women, healthy, unhealthy, we considered a class called educated and uneducated. So now today we have these two classes of people. If you carry out a demographic study, educated, uneducated, literate, illiterate. So we know what is education today. Now today's education is really not education. I once again repeat, look into lexicography and try to understand from where the word education has come. What is the root word? And what is the meaning? So education is actually for man making. To make man better human being, education was conceived by earlier generations. But now education has become profession oriented, vocation oriented. It is for making someone job qualified. And that's how the education we have today. We end up education by some professional knowledge, professional education, and then we become fit for particular profession or some job or some service or occupation, etc. So when education, the idea was conceived by our ancestors, this was not the idea behind it, that somebody should be job qualified, job capacitated. But that's how the education is there today. It doesn't make work for man making, but make man eligible, qualified to earn money, earn living, have an economic activity. And the economic activity, if you know little about economics, it is study of wants, human wants, and then satisfaction of human wants. How ideally wants can be satisfied. That's what the modern economics is. So we want to increase the desires and wants in mankind and give a process whereby the wants will be satisfied, satisfactorily perhaps. So that is economic activity, and education has a chord with economic activity. Education is leaning towards economic activity, qualifying man for economic activity. That is what is education today. But if you go a little backwards retrospectively, that was not the case even 100 years back and 200 years back. It was to intelligize the humankind. By education, man was made more intelligent. Intelligence is there, inbuilt intelligence is there in mankind. But nourish, nurture that intelligence That was the purpose of education, even about 200 years back, 100 years back. But now, that is not the case. Anyway, so we have these two classes of people, educated or uneducated. And if I may say so, there is a dubious distinction today. It is only in our generation, the present generation, that we find that many of them start yoga to become teachers. In our generation, this was not the case. That it did not occur to us when we started yoga that we should be teaching yoga, we should become teachers in yoga. Today, people are making inquiry with yoga institutes whether they have some diploma certificate course so that they can become teachers. So yoga has tend to become a endeavor to be getting a career out of it, which is an unfortunate scenario. I don't think it was there in last perhaps 500,000 years even. It is only in this era that we have a generation which is thinking to pursue yoga, to make a career out of it, to make a profession out of it, to make a business out of it, and go for job of teaching yoga. The job of teaching yoga has become economic activity, and that is a motivating factor today, which is very unfortunate. So there are some who just want to learn yoga. There are some who just want to learn yoga for their own well-being. But then there are some people who just want to take up yoga, commence yoga, learn yoga, to be teaching yoga. Anyway, so I felt that it is necessary to understand the education in different times, and particularly the education in classical time, when Patanjali's time. If Patanjali had few students around him, in what way they were educated? What was the educational system then? So this will be little amusement for a man of modern times. So it's just information as to what was education in Patanjali's time. Today perhaps even uneducated people can commence yoga, and yoga is taught to uneducated. Knowing that they are uneducated, they have devised ways and means to teach yoga to uneducated people. But in Patanjali's time, uneducated people did not venture to take up yoga, nor were they were drawn towards learning yoga. So the point is, in Patanjali's time, what was the education? Now, this might be little unpracticable, and therefore one will not be interested to look into it. But as an information, I want to have you students to have some information about it, as to what was the education then. There were 14 Vidyas in one of the classical times, in the times of say Patanjali, or what is called as Vedic times, that there were 14 Vidyas. Education means, what was the education about? It was 4 Vedas. Then the 4 Vedas had 4 Upavedas. The 4 Vedas, as most of you know, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. So these are 4 Vedas. These Vedas each of them have 3 parts, called Samhita part, Brahmana part, Aranyaka part. Samhita part has mantras for Vedic rituals. The Brahmana is an addenda to it, describes in details the purpose of all those rituals of Yajna Samstha. And Aranyaka has the part called Jnana Khanda, Jnana Kanda. Upanishads come in Aranyakas. So the wisdom of Vedas significantly comes in Aranyaka part, where you find Upanishads. Upanishads are book of knowledge, spiritual knowledge. So the Vedas have three parts: Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka. So Vedadhyana was a part of study. So people studied Vedas, that is Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka. So 4 Vedas came in those 14 Vidyas. Then came 4 Upavedas. Upavedas are: Rigveda has Ayurveda as its subordinate Veda. Yajurveda has Dhanurveda. Dhanurveda is not only that archery, which is very profound thing, because we know so many kinds of astras are there, but it is weaponry, dealing with the weaponaries, and also some political intelligence, warfare, and some political intelligence, political prudence. That came in Dhanurveda. Gandharva Veda is Upaveda of Samaveda, where music, etc., fine arts found a locus, the support. And the 4th one is Sthapatya Veda of Atharva Veda. Sthapatya means architecture and civil structuring. So that is Sthapatya Veda. So these were 4 Upavedas. Then 6 Vedangas. If the Vedas were to be studied, the Vedas had to be studied with the help of 6 limbs of Vedas. What are the 6 limbs? Shiksha, Kalpa, Nirukta, Vyakrana, Chanda, Jyotish. So this means 4 plus 4 plus 6. So these were called Chaturdasha Vidyasthanas. So the education pertained to this: study of Vedas, study of Upavedas, study of Vedangas. Then at a later period, subsequently, it was again added further with another 4. They were Arthashastra, Nyaya Shastra, and Dharma Shastra, and Itihas Puran. Itihas Puran, Itihas means Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Puranas means 18 Mahapuranas, 18 Upapuranas. So that was the branch of Itihas Puranas. So these were 4 more, which became 18. So the last 4, I repeat once again: Nyaya, Dharma, Artha, Arthashastra, Itihas Puran. Nyaya was pursued to develop the human faculty of intelligence, reasoning, analysis, perception, thought process, logicality. And this was necessary to study Vedas. Vedas, unlike the scriptures of other religions, was not something that just believe in it, just have implicit belief and faith in it. Don't put any question on it, just believe. If the Vedas were scriptures, it did not go that way. It did not say just have faith. That's why Nyaya Shastra was one of the branches where human faculty of reasoning, intelligence, perception, inferences, logical processes, intellectual processes were sharpened. So that is Nyaya Shastra. In Dharma Shastra came study of Sankhya, Vedanta, and plus the Dharma. Dharma means understanding the various samskars and various rituals to be performed in samskars. We'll be having little idea about these samskars in a short while from now. So Dharma dealt with that, mentioned the various rituals and practices required by a Vedic follower. So Nyaya, Dharma, Sankhya, Vedanta plus Dharma Shastra about rights and duties, about conduct of life, the do's and don'ts of life, identifying the virtues and vices, where is virtue, where is vice, etc. So Dharma Shastra divulged all that, which is important for man to be aware of as to what is virtue and what is vice, what is right and what is wrong. So that was part of the circumscribed by Dharma Shastra. So Nyaya, Dharma, and then came Artha Shastra. Now this Artha Shastra is not economics, as many of the vernacular people might think. If you want to have idea of this Artha Shastra, try to have some information about Kautilya Artha Shastra. It is not Artha in the sense money matters and fiscal matters. Artha means a Purushartha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha are four Purusharthas in Vedic culture. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So Artha is one of the Purusharthas. And that one which dealt with Artha Purushartha was Artha Shastra, not economics, literally. So that was Artha Shastra, and if you want to have some idea of that Artha Shastra, have a glimpse into Kautilya Artha Shastra. Then you will have some idea about what that is. It is not just economics, dealing with wants, want satisfaction, desires, supplies, demands, etc., which is the subject matter of modern economics. So those were 14 Vidyas. I gave little idea about, we need to understand these 14 Vidyas, which was all education about. I told you a little bit about Shiksha. And I said if you want to have little idea about Shiksha as Vedanga, first of the Vedangas, look into the Shiksha Valli of Taittiriya Upanishad. The first part, opening part of Taittiriya Upanishad. It's called Shiksha Valli. Anyway, Shiksha, you see, human being is given a speech which is unique to human beings. Subhuman beings do not have speech as such. They have only sounds, cries, etc. They don't have a language as such. But human being is given oral organ. And then oral organ is so important for human beings. We don't just make sounds like animals, creatures and birds do. We speak. And then the speech is very potent instrument of karma. The karmas are carried out kaya, vacha, manasa. There are bodily acts, activities, actions. There are mental activities, mental actions, and there are speechly activities and actions. Human being can act with speech, and it is a very potent instrument of karma. The speech act is not necessarily related to body every time. Body is doing some act, the speech can do something else. So also it is not necessarily mind act. It is not going in hand with mind act. Mind might be thinking of something and the speech might be speaking something else. So these are three kinds of actions, karmas: kaya, vacha, manasa. We, since last few generations, have neglected this. We think that when the child is born, after a while the child should start speaking. If the child starts speaking, parents are happy. If the speech has to be developed, the child has to go for education. Modern education, that's all. The mind must be improved for speech. Intelligence must be improved for speech. We don't identify independent entity as such in speech, of speech, about speech. But human being is given an organ of speech, and therefore there must be some education with regards to the instrument. We are trying to educate our body for the body to be working well, body to be working properly. We do so much of physical culture. We undergo physical culture regimen to keep the body fit, active, functional. So also we go for education for the mental system, for the mind to function well. We have some endeavors for improving the mental function, mental activity. But we have never thought of speech activity, speechly activity, for which we do not do anything. At the most, we might try to take up some exercises for speech, which we call as tongue twisters. There can be a statement which is a tongue twister. And then we think there is only to be some exercise. But last time I told you about that, a bit about it. We need to educate, culture, evolve, exercise our oral system, vocal system, speech system, which so far the man has never considered. There are speech therapies for those who are not clearly speaking. Perhaps there are some exercises for speech, but there is no education to speech. We try to give education to our body. We want to have the body good habits as well. We want the mind to have good habits as well. But we do not think of good habits for speech, which is not proper, which is not justifiable. Whereas Shiksha deals with all that. Educating the oral system, vocal system, speech system, culturing the vocal system, oral system, evolving it, culturing it, enriching it, which in modern education is totally neglected. One should be only able to speak, that's all. If you are able to speak, that is be all and end all in the realm of speech. But it is not proper. Particularly when the Vedas are to be chanted, your speech organ needs to be cultured, because it's going to chant that those sublime hymns of Vedas. So it needs some culturing. Uncultured speech, doing it is not proper. And therefore, Shiksha as a branch of knowledge was developed thoroughly and completely. That's the Vedanga which is called Shiksha. And the Shiksha, you get a classical text of Pingalacharya. Pingalacharya penned down a text of Shiksha. So it's a very interesting and very thorough, comprehensive subject called Shiksha, which is important for Vedic studies, for chanting Vedas, for studying Vedas, for uttering Vedas. So Shiksha is the first. Then comes Kalpa. See, the Vedic scriptures are not merely scriptures to be read, then to be by hearted, and then to be using them, chanting them, using them, quoting them. There is Prayogik Anga of Vedas. Therefore, in Vedas, there is a study which comes later after the Vedic texts have been learnt, studied, by hearted. There are prayogas, because there are Vedic rituals in various ceremonies, various occasions, like wedding. There are certain rituals in wedding which are by Vedic mantras. So the various samskars which are there in Vedic dharma, they all have some rituals, and there are Vedic mantras for those rituals. So the Kalpa speaks or deals with Prayoga. So there is a part of study in Vedas called Saprayoga Vedadhyayanam. Saprayoga. That means that person doesn't know only to chant the Vedic mantras, but he knows where to chant, on which occasion to chant. Because the mantras for marriage are one thing, than Anteshti Samskar. When a person is dead, there are certain rituals to be performed. So there are different sets of mantras for all those various samskars. If you have some idea about Shodasha Samskar, 16 samskaras, which Vedic religion has given. So for each occasion, each ritual, the mantras are different. So one should know which mantra comes where and how the mantra is to be applied. So there are certain gestures, mudras. Then the processes, certain mantras will go for oblations, offering in the fire. Certain mantras are chanted and recited without offering in the fire also. So the prayoga, how to use the mantras, is important part of study in studies of Vedas. And Kalpa does it. So Kalpa is again a body of texts called Sutras, Dharma Sutras, Gruhya Sutras, and Shulba Sutras. Shulba Sutras means when it comes to Vedic rituals, altars. The shape of altar, the size of the altar. Sometimes the altar can be a square, somewhere it is triangular, somewhere it is circular, somewhere it is pentagonic. So what kind of altar and what is the dimension of the altar? So all these mathematics of it comes in Shulba Sutras. Shulba Sutras were so evolved that in Vedic times or 5,000, 10,000 years back, the priest class would prepare an altar of particular dimension as specified, say in square shape. In the same dimension area, they will be laying a triangular altar or circular altar or pentagonic altar. So they had these mathematical formulae to understand the dimensions of the altars, which could be square, triangular, circular, or rectangular, etc. And area would be the same. Area would be the same. There used to be three fires, three altars in Vedic karmas: Ahavaniya, Garhyapastha, and Dakshinagni. So Ahavaniya, Garhyapastha, and Dakshinagni. These were three altars. So they could be in different shapes, but area would be the same. That was the geometry developed in Shulba Sutras. So Guruya Sutras, Dharma Sutras, Shulba Sutras, Shrauta Sutras. So these were the texts of Kalpa. So four kinds of sutras, sutra texts: Shrauta Sutra, Dharma Sutra, Guruya Sutra, and Shulba Sutra. Guruya Sutra means for a domestic purpose, a family. Family has to follow certain Vedic principles and rituals. And those were mentioned in Guruya Sutras. Now, as I just now said, that the Vedic mantras are to be used for different functions. Gautama Dharma Sutra, very old text, mentions 40 samskars, 40, which slowly got tapered, and now later we understood Shodasha samskars, 16 samskaras. Now when it comes to practicality of life today, they are further reduced. Maybe just Upanayan samskar, Vivaha samskar, and then perhaps Antyeshti samskar. Anyway, he mentioned 40 samskaras. It started with Garbhadana. Garbhadana means the man placing the sperm cells into the womb of his woman. Garbhadana. So that is first samskar for a life. So Garbhadana, Pumsavana, Simanto Nayana, these were coming in wedding. Jata Karma, Nama Karma, Anna Prashana, Chaula, Upanayana, that is thread ceremony. Thread ceremony was followed by Vedadhyayana. These are four: Rigveda study, Yajurveda study, Samaveda study, Atharvaveda study. So these are four samskars embodied in Veda Vrata. Then Pitru Yagna, Manushya Yagna, Bhuta Yagna, Brahma Yagna, aspects of Pancha Yagnas, Vaishvedeva, Ashtaka, Purnima Amavasya rituals, new moon, full moon rituals, Parvana on particular occasions, and Shraddha Karma, Shravani. Shravani means changing the thread on annual basis, particular time in the month of Shravana, on the Purnima of Shravana, the thread is changed. Then Agrahayani, which was a samskar in the month of Margashirsha, full moon. So there was some homa performed during that time. Then came Chaitri, that means Chaitra Purnima. Some karmas, rituals were there. Then came Ashvayuji, Ashwini Purnima. Then came Agnyadhana for Agnihotra, Vedikas were maintaining fire 24 hours in their house, a consecrated fire. That was called Agnihotra. So that is Agnyadana. Then Agnihotra Samskara. The traditional Vedikas would perform Agnihotra, making some Samidhadana in that altar. Then Agnyadhana, Agrayana, which is Ashwini Purnima, where cereals and pulses etc. were offered in the altar, in the fire. Then Niruda Pashubandha, annual kind of Yajna Karma. Then Sautramani, for the deity Indra, was performed. Then Agnishtoma, then Ukta or Soma Yaga, Shodashi, again a part of Soma Yaga, Vajapeya, also a part of Soma Yaga, Atiratra Soma Yaga, Aptor Yama Soma Yaga again. So he mentions 40 samskars in Gautama, and later came the 16 samskaras, and each of these samskaras have mantras, Vedic mantras. So one should know the prayoga of which mantra to be used where and how. So that was the Kalpa. Kalpa was doing that. The practical applications and usages of Vedic mantras. It is not just knowing them by heart. It is not just chanting them. It is not just reciting them. But to apply them. Their application, for that there was a Vidya called Kalpa. So Shiksha, Kalpa. Then came Nirukta. Nirukta means to understand the meaning of these hymns, meanings of the Vedic statements, Vedic mantras. So one needs to go into inquiring the meaning of the purport of the mantras, meaning and purport of the statements which come in Vedic literature in the four Vedas and in the three texts, Samhita, Brahman, Aranyaka. So how to arrive at the meaning of it? That is an important thing. So as some people think Vedas are just to be known by heart. No, meaning should be known, for which there was a science called Nirukta or Nighantu. Yaskacharya was the author of Nirukta. And for Kalpa, there were many. For the Shrauta Sutras, Dharma Sutras, then the Gruhya Sutras. So these were body of texts, and there were many authors. They were all sages. They were all rishis, and they composed the texts for Kalpa. So Kalpa is not just penned down by one author, as is the case of Shiksha, and as is the case of Nirukta. Then came Vyakarana. Because to arrive at the meaning of it, it is important to have some knowledge of Vyakarana. The Vyakarana texts were given by Panini, Katyayan and Patanjali. Panini's Sutras, Katyayana's Vartikas, and Patanjali's Mahabhashya. So this is the body of Vyakarana, which is again important to understand the etymology of every word and the meaning. To decide on meaning, it is important to have Vyakarana in place. About Vyakarana, let me give you a little amusing example. English example, of course. So it's not much to do with Vyakarana, it is much to do with grammar. So that implies Vyakarana and grammar is not one and the same. Anyway, I won't cast much light on that. In English, now I will utter one statement. I will utter two statements. His wife who is in Mumbai is unwell. This is the first statement. His wife who is in Mumbai is unwell. His wife who is in Mumbai is unwell. Now the words are same. In two syntaxes, the words are same. His wife who is in Mumbai is unwell. His wife who is in Mumbai is unwell. I have given a pause in the first statement. And in the second statement, there is no pause. The words are same. You need to know certain conventions and grammar. Otherwise, you will think that both the statements have one and the same meaning. No, there is big difference between the meanings of the two sentences. His wife who is in Mumbai, comma, is unwell means he has more than one wife. He has 2 or 3 or 4 or more wives, and one of them who is in Mumbai is unwell. So it implies that he has many wives, and one of them who is in Mumbai is unwell. While in the second one, where there is no comma, no pause, his wife who is in Mumbai is unwell. That means his wife has gone to Mumbai, maybe to stay with their children, or for some function, purpose. She happens to be in Mumbai and then she is unwell. So in the second statement, there is only one wife to that man. In the first statement, there are more than one wives to that man. Now you should know where to give a pause and where to give a comma if you are writing, and where to stop, pause when you are uttering. So if you want to say that his wife is in Mumbai and she is unwell, you have to utter this sentence in one stroke. His wife who is in Mumbai is unwell. But if you say his wife who is in Mumbai and take a pause, is unwell, it has a different meaning. Now we don't bother about these implications of grammar when we just want to be speakers of a language. But the grammar has some important contribution. Anyway, for Vedic statements to arrive at their meanings, Vyakarana is important. So that is another Upanga. Then Chanda, meters. The Vedic mantras are in meters. This is a very signature condition of Vedic hymns, that they are in meters. There are various chandas, Gayatri, Anuštubha, Tishtubha. So therefore Chanda was important study. So Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda. And then came Jyotish, the sixth one. Jyotish is not to do with astrology. It is to deal with astronomy. It is for time ascertainment, for Vedic rituals. The Vedic rituals have muhurta, they have certain times, in particular time they have to be done. And then the time means not an almanac, Gregorian almanac. The muhurtas, which time, which nakshatra, in which Rashi, which nakshatra something is to be performed. Then the muhurta, which particular time. So the Jyotish is for the practical aspects of Vedas, because Vedas have applications. If the Vedas have applications, there is reference to time, when they are to be applied. Time and place, time and space. So the Jyotisha deals with the time aspect and space aspect, because the time depends upon space. Like if it is 12 o'clock now in India, it is 6 o'clock morning in Europe, around 6 o'clock in Europe. So the place changes, the time changes, the place changes. In Japan, it is about 4:30 in the afternoon. Why? Because it's a different place. So Jyotish deals with the time and space. It is so important when it comes to application of Vedas. So therefore, that's the sixth upanga. Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda, Jyotish. So 4 plus 4 plus 6, 10. And then 4 plus 4 plus 6 means 14 plus another 4, which I just now mentioned, is Nyaya, Dharma, Artha, Arthashastra, Itihas, Puran. So this was educational pursuit. Nowhere you will cite money earning potential or professional potential, vocational potential, money earning potential. It is merely pursuit of knowledge. Vedas are book of knowledge, and to have the study of Vedic lore, it was necessary to have these studies of the 6 Vedangas. Then just as Vedas have Vedangas, Upavedas have Upavedangas. Upavedas, as you recall, I told you about Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda, Sthapatya Veda. So these are Upavedas. They have Upavedangas. Which are the 6 Upavedangas? These are the 6 darshanas. Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, Vedanta. So these 6 philosophical systems of orthodox philosophies, they were called Upavedangas. So they were also to be studied. So in Vedic times, when they studied Vedas, they studied Upavedas, they studied Vedangas, they studied Upavedas, they studied Upavedangas. This was educative pursuit in Patanjali's time and Vedic times. Anyway, let's pause here. Let's break here. The subsequent part will be dealt with in the next session. Namaskar.